Wowhead has the Warlords of Draenor talent calculator. Everyone's been talking about the new 100 talents. Are you still working on any talents that are considered controversial, or any specific comments on talents that you think might likely get further revisions from what we've seen in the patch notes, or any other abilities that could get pruned that we haven't heard about yet?
So we're doing work on that every single day. So like we spend a lot of time looking at the forums, looking at tweets, looking at posts and responses from players. We'll get more as the beta and alpha unfold, and we're constantly making tweaks to the talents as there's changes. Like just last week, we switched the what talent rows some of the priest talents were in, just to make it flow a little bit better for low level players. So we're ready to make changes to that based on the feedback we get. We're happy with where they are. We'd be willing to essentially ship with anything we have on the talents. But when we get feedback, we can use that to make them even better than they already are. You're unlikely to see a lot of changes in lower level talents. It's mostly level 100 talent row we made changes to. There were some pretty drastic changes to level 75 and 90 mage talents to fix problems.
Yeah, that had the biggest calculator
Right,
changes.
but for the most part, we didn't see any more changes. I mean, mostly level 100 talents, or if a talent has a particular problem it's causing, the design will make adjustments based on that.
Yeah, I mean, I also saw that redirect was still an ability, but as Chad was saying on Twitter, it was going to be cut for rogues.
Yeah, we hadn't got around to removing it yet, so a lot of times we'll get a bug in the inspector saying, "Hey, you didn't get rid of redirect," and we'll take care of it. The intention is redirect goes away and is replaced by this. Essentially, your combo points are always on the rogue, which is a big change I'm excited about. I've talked to a lot of rogue players who are really happy about that change.
My main is a rogue, so...
Oh, well, there you go. My main's a feral druid, so I'm very familiar with that as well.
So, I know that you guys are doing a blog on raid cooldowns soon, and much has been made about the state of raid cooldowns and how they're changing. Also, in particular, the problem of how DPS raid cooldowns diluted healer gameplay and how you guys want to fix that. Is the goal still for DPS players to feel like they have ways to contribute to the raid's survivability at key moments? Is that still important?
Oh, definitely. So things like smoke bomb for rogues is really important to us, or misdirection on hunters, or being able to use like talents like Dream of Cenarius or Heart of the Wild on a druid. These are important things so that everybody feels like they can do something to help the group survive, but the overall magnitude of the effect was often too big for the classes. So, for example, a feral druid or balanced druid's tranquility with Heart of the Wild running was just too much. So we actually took tranquility away from them. It's now a restoration only ability, but we still feel like they can contribute something to the overall group. One place that was very clear that we could take back down some of the raid cooldowns was tanks didn't really need them. If you think about it, a lot of people want to say, well, I've got this cool reason why you want to bring me to the raid. I've got this tool that you can bring. The tanks are going to get brought no matter what. They don't need to have that thing to get them their in. And by toning down all of these raid cooldowns, we make the healers feel better about their position. They become more important. And what it was doing was eroding their place in the raid. And in some cases, if the encounter wasn't very healing dependent, it was actually letting people drop healers in the raid altogether, which wasn't what we were looking for. So we've brought those all down for very good reasons, of increasing and improving the healing gameplay.
And you've also added a few raid cooldowns for DPS, like Amplify Magic,
yes,
or the Storm Elemental, where DPS can enhance the healing.
Because there were a few classes that didn't bring anything, and so we thought, well, let's fix those deficits and bring them up. And in some cases, they brought too much, like Retribution Paladins have too many things, so we're going to take a Devotion Art and help them.
Awesome. So, changing gears to Garrisons, everything we've heard is very exciting. They seem to be the mini game feature of Warlords, kind of like battle pets and Mob, but even bigger. What methods will there be of tying them into normal gameplay? You know, if you enjoy playing other parts of the game like questing or raiding or PvP, you know, what's going to make you take a break from those activities to go do things in your Garrison?
I think people compare them to the battle pets because it was that was the new feature last time, but I would say they're not at all like battle pets. Unlike battle pets, they are integrated into every aspect of Warlords of Draenor. Steve can actually give you a lot.
It's a huge focus of ours to make sure that we fold those into everything. We're going to reroute you back through your Garrison constantly as you're leveling up. There are several things that are going to drive you back there. For example, when you first get your Garrison, we're going to give you a mine, we're going to give you a farm, and a barn for free, basically. You're going to be able to build those structures right away. Those are going to give you the resource gathering. You're going to get every resource, whether you're spec'd for it or not.
And they're even going to ore and herbs.
Exactly. Yeah. Whether you're offline or online. It's going to keep generating those. And you're going to want to keep going back to your Garrison to make sure that you remove those from those facilities and transfer them over to whatever crafting buildings you might have built. whether it's blacksmiths or leatherworking or whatever.
Garrisons is tied into every aspect of max level trade skills. So if you want to advance your trade skills, you have to build that up in your garrison. It's been a big part of what's going on.
Right, right. Another thing, as you're adventuring through, doing quests, and just devouring the content through Draenor, you're going to come across a lot of NPCs. Maybe they're quest givers, and you do a few quests for them, and at the end of that, they're going to be grateful and want to work for you, and you can recruit them and send them to your garrison. You can rescue an orc from a group of ogres, same kind of thing, or find somebody imprisoned in the bottom of the dungeon, release them, and talk them into working for you. So as you keep going back to your garrison, kind of your tapestry, your story of Draenor, you're going to see kind of right before your eyes all these characters that you've got a little history with. You're going to be able to make choices. You're not going to be able to bring everybody in, so you might adopt a no-known policy in your garrison or whatever it might be. And there's a lot of depth there too. I don't know how much you're familiar with the actual followers, but they're going to have item slots, they're going to have weapons, they're going to have armor. Each of those are going to have high level stats, so you're going to constantly want to upgrade them. There are going to be missions that you can send them out on. We're going to telegraph to you in those missions exactly what the challenges are that your followers are going to face. And so you're going to want to make more interesting decisions. Which of your followers are best suited for this specific challenge? You're not going to just have an A team and send them out on every mission. Those missions are going to unlock as you play. They're going to get more and more challenging. And your garrison followers will level up. So as you level up, as our eye level raises, and based on you're matching up against the adversary's abilities, we're going to have levels of success, so bronze, silver, gold kind of treasure that's attainable from those missions. And we're going to just spell it right out for you. You've got a 5% chance of getting gold with this lineup. You swap out a character for another one, maybe that goes up to 7 or 8%. And so
there's also been some interesting buildings or tweets about fishing or an elite pet battle team, or even something with mounts or a way that you can show off achievement trophies at your garrison.
There's going to be a pond there for you to fish in. There's going to be a training ground for your battle pets. Those will be part of the garrison.
Very excited about that.
All organic, all really integrated. So hopefully encourage you to explore every facet of the game and build that part up. Your buildings in the garrison, you probably know this, are going to level up.
The 3 levels.
They get amazing.
Awesome artwork.
Yes, they did.
And there's lots of hard choices. You can't have every building, you can't have every follower, and they all have different capabilities and different things that may work well with your character or not well with your character, depending on your class, your playstyle, your specialization. So everyone's going to end up with a different garrison, with different followers, and you have to make hard decisions about, do I want them to go get loot for themselves to make them better, or do I want them to go get loot for me, or do I want them working in my blacksmith so I can make stuff to sell in the auction house? So it depends on what your goals are in the game, what you're going to do with them. And on top of that, every once in a while, these guys who you've been poking in the eye, they're not happy with that, and they're going to send forces to go and assault your garrison, and you're going to have to organize a defense of it. You got to make sure you have guys who are capable of defending it. Right? You may also bring in your real life friends to help you do the garrison defense. Right. So all of those different features of garrisons are going on all the time, all the way through leveling up and at max level.
And yeah, those assaults are going to be. I'm really excited about them. They're coming along really nice. They're going to be pretty. We're selling them very well. Big battles that just come in huge threats, and some nice rewards tied to those events as well.
Cool. So you guys were talking about trade skills and professions, and I had a question specifically on those. We learned in the patch notes that the combat bonuses are moved from professions, and that should make them feel less mandatory and more of an enjoyable thing for people who like them. What benefits are players, looking forward to from the professions now in Warlords, and what are the incentives for leveling one now?
So part of the philosophy there was we want to put the trade back in trade skills, and instead of it being about is this character power, what's the most optimal way to make my character stronger? We really aren't happy with that. And it has its origins in engineering, because engineering was the best trade skill without those perks, so we kind of made everybody else catch up. But going the other direction, I think what we're going to do instead is engineers will actually be able to sell the gizmos they make to other players, and they won't be engineer only. And then we don't have to have these perks propping up the whole system. So each trade skill is a legitimate choice in max level gameplay. You have to say that being a miner and skinner is dumb, right? Which is what it is in the game right now. It can be okay. And the main goal of trade skills is to make cool things and sell them to other people, which means you engage in it if you enjoy that gameplay, and if you don't, you do some other part of the game.
have you guys thought about the implication of engineering perks being available to everyone, like everyone in the raid having rocket boots in light of the ability of pruning? And
I think there's some pretty good answers to that. We were talking about changing the engineering boots to just use the potion cooldown. So you can use the engineering boots to go super fast, but then you can't use that bonus agility potion that that you want to use right when heroism's going. So you have hard choices to make, whether or not to use these things.
So before we started the video, we were talking about the Timeless Isle a little, and the exploration and all the sort of objectives on the maps. So the Timeless Isle is really new. We introduced a new way of doing content in Miss, very different than the daily quest at the start. What do you consider to be the strengths and weaknesses of the current Timeless Isle, and what sort of angles can we expect to see in Warlords?
So we've been working, gradually, ever since kind of Firelens, and maybe even before, we've been trying to work towards kind of a more sandboxy, open feel for some in-game content. I know with Pandaria we did plenty of daily quests. What we've got planned here for Draenor in some patch content is similar, and we're going to rely on some other tech, some of the bonus objective tech, which is basically calling out whether it's content on the map. Content that's just intuitive and already has the context built in, so you don't need a whole pane of quest text and somebody to go talk to. You can just roll right in and have objectives roll right up on your taskbar.
So like, for example, in Ashran, that could be a bonus objective to go collect cannonballs for the fortress to fire off cannons. Just giving an example. And so as you approach where those cannonballs are, this bonus objective shows up on your screen. He's like, go get 12 cannonballs and bring them back to the base. And that helps advance your objectives, gives you a reward that helps you fight better in Ashran, and then helps you win that fight. So you're constantly kind of discovering these objectives as you adventure around, instead of being guided around by the nose by a bunch of exploration points.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people like exploring and finding new gear in the Timeless Isle, but some other angles like the rare spawns and how their health pool scaled or didn't scale, or the low vanity rates were less enjoyable for some players.
Right.
I think the big problem in those respects was as awesome as Timeless Isle was, and as big as it was actually too small. There's too much player collision. So imagine all of the continent having area like that, so we have a lot more space to work with. Ashran being a much bigger space to work with, and if people are spread out more, then there's less of that player collision over specific spawns.
We're also blowing out on the level up path, at least, blowing out the treasures. You found a few of them in Pandaria that are just unique
riches
to
of
you.
Pandaria.
Right.
Nice gold boost.
And so one of the things that we're trying to do is kind of get back to the old World of Warcraft feel, where it's just fun to explore every nook and cranny and kind of discover everything is all brand new. And with recent expansions, we've looked back at our content and felt that maybe we're kind of keeping you on rails a little bit more than we'd like to. So while if you're in a race to get to max level and get into those raids, you can play just as you always have. It's not going to impede your progress at all. But if you're the kind of player that wants to kind of roam around and smell the roses a little bit, we're going to make it worthwhile. We're going to reward you for going to the back of the caves or exploring the little nooks and crannies, and the vignettes, the little boss icons. Those things are going to be present as well, along with the bonus objectives. Reward you for roaming around and exploring.
And that's actually a big part of why you probably heard we're not letting you fly.
Right,
6.0,
yes.
Is because we want to protect that exploration gameplay. If you can fly around, what it becomes is you go to a website that says, go to these coordinates in order. And you
wonder which one.
Go to these coordinates, get these items, and you actually kind of lose that chance to explore and discover for yourself. We want to protect that a bit, which is why we're not letting you fly to start. But I know a lot of people are concerned that, I got this amazing epic flying mount in Warlords of Draenor, like the serpent mounts that you get, and they're not allowed on the ground. You can't use them in battlegrounds, can't use them in arenas. We're changing the rules on that. Every single flying mount is going to be usable on the ground, including in battlegrounds and arenas.
Another thing we're doing to streamline things a little bit, we're really sensitive about bag space. I don't know if you've noticed that sometimes your bags get a little bit too full heavy.
Mine is very full.
In Pandaria especially, the quest team, we have kind of gotten in the habit of rewarding you with a lot of different kind of gadgets.
Timeless Isle especially, there's so many awesome things, but you don't have any room.
But even straight in 5.0, you started getting puntable marmots and costumes and things like that.
Right. So one of the things that we've done to alleviate all that bag bloat is take all of those items and give them their own tab, just like mounts and pets get.
Calling it a toy box, so you can cast those spells directly from the toy box.
Right. In addition to that, as you're just going around questing and we ask you to go get pelts and teeth and whatever we might send you after, those items are no longer going to go in your bags. You're going to get credit for them. They're going to track just as they always have, but they are going to take a big price.
Right. On top of that, trade skill materials are going to be allowed to stack to 100 in most cases, giving another page of void storage. So all the new transmog gear you're collecting will have space, and we give a little bit more bank space. So you're going to find that the bags open up a lot more. There's a lot more space to hold stuff.
Cool. So I've got a question on challenge modes and proving grounds. I really enjoyed this content in Myst, but it seemed that, it was a bit underappreciated. It could reach a, larger audience. I really liked how you could do that without, a large group or amazing gear, and now we have that silver proving grounds requirement for looking for dungeon. Are you guys planning any more rewards or incentives to get people to try this content out? Because I think it's really good to have people learn their class in a nice environment.
I think it's a really important part of actually our boost to 90 strategy that we're requiring people to get the silver in for dungeons and for doing LFR, requiring doing proving grounds. We're planning on doing more with proving grounds in the future. We'd actually like to make it so it diagnoses your mistakes a little bit more and says, hey, maybe there's this spell that you aren't casting and should be casting or casting more often. Probably won't make it into 6.0, but with something in the long term, proving grounds is going to do more to diagnose what you're doing wrong. But I think making that requirement to get into content of doing proving ground is going to send a lot more players there. We were actually even talking about maybe in the UI, instead of just saying you're not allowed to do this yet, there's a button that says Q for proving grounds, take you straight there. And so we want to promote that and use that as a way for people to learn to play the character better. I mentioned that it connects to the boost to 90 experience. I think the boost to 90 is a huge part of what we're doing in Warlords of Draenor to make the game more accessible. Different people have stopped playing at different times. Like you may have a friend the last time they played, they're like, they're level 83, they're somewhere in Cataclysm. They don't remember what they were doing. They've got this inventory that's totally full of stuff they don't recognize, spells they don't remember how to use, quests that who knows what those were. So taking their character to boosting it to 90, clearing out their quest log, clearing their inventory, mailing it back to them so they can get to it eventually. And then the other thing we're doing is we're going to clear off their action bar. So we're going to give you just 3 or 4 abilities on a boosted character at first, and then gradually unlock more abilities as you quest through it. So essentially giving people a chance to relearn how their character works, identify what the important abilities are, put them on their action bar for them, and so they can get led into the game with a little bit of help for that first hour experience we're talking about. And then be ready to play the game and engage and play side by side with the great people who are raiding Siege of Orgrimmar yesterday. So you'll be able to play with your friends immediately instead of saying, I'll see you in a couple weeks after you get to level 90, which isn't any fun for anybody.
I have a question on currency. So recent interviews have stated that Valor points are going away. Are there any big changes for the other types of currency that we're familiar with in Myst? And will anything fill the role of Valor, which was to provide a reliable way of getting new gear or upgrades on a weekly basis?
So we spent a lot of time thinking about Valor, and Valor's gone through a few different phases in what it was. If you think back to Wrath of the Lich King or even Burning Crusade, it was essentially used as sort of I can go buy this gear because I got unlucky and never had to get it actually dropped. So it was sort of a fallback mechanism for when you were unlucky. The much better solution, instead of giving you this currency to solve that, is to help deal better with being unlucky. So we're going to do more to track progressive loot, so that when you use your bonus rolls to get items and you don't win something, we're going to make it more and more and more likely for you to actually win something. And we're also going to keep track of which items you got in your bonus rolls. So if you get something for your bonus roll, we're going to try to not give you that item again. Massively reduced chance to get duplicate items. And I think by making loot a little bit less random, a little bit more dependable, especially the bonus rolls, there's no need for this fallback currency to make up for being unlucky because you weren't unlucky in the first place. And that's just going to feel better to everybody. We're still going to keep Justice around for buying old gear from previous expansions. I think Honor is going to be serving in a similar role, and Conquest will be the main currency in this expansion. It's simplifying the currencies, and again, re-examining why we have Valor and trying to serve that in a different way that's less complex and more fun.
I think we only have time for one more question. Sure. So a general one. If you're someone and your friends have played WoW but you haven't played before, what would you tell them? What would you tell your friend why they should pick up Warlords of Draenor?
This
what
is
makes this special?
The best time to jump back into the game, because again, the boost to 90 is going to make everybody able to play side by side with their friends. So as you're going through that intro experience, the guy who's raiding right now can play side by side with the complete neophyte. But the neophytes getting the help they need. There's only 3 or 4 buttons on their action bar. As they quest through that first hour experience, we gradually unlock a few more abilities at a time, and gradually increase the complexity, as well as identifying what the important buttons are and what they need. So a new player is going to have a sort of tutorial to help them get into the action. And they're not going to have to wait to play with the person who's been playing all along. They'll be able to go do, as soon as that hour's done, they can go do a dungeon together, they can keep questing together in Frostfire, Shadow Moon, they can go off and do a battleground. All of those things are open to them. So it's a great time for them to jump back into the game. And then additional emphasis on Proving Grounds is going to help give more ways to teach them how to play and join in the fun with the raids.
Awesome. Thank you very much.